Hi and welcome to another fly tying tutorial. Today we're gonna tie the perfect Leo shrimp. For this fly I'm using a Gamakatsu F314 in a size 4. And I'm gonna tie this fly with a uni thread 6/0 in a tan color. So just tying your thread, snip off the waist, and now you want to align your thread between the hook point and the barb. And I'm going to tie in some mouth parts. Here I'm using some Swisher's Wiggly Hackle in a brown and olive color. So you want to snip out a few fibers and tie them in. Advance your thread down to the barb like that and go up again. This is very important that you follow these points, okay? So now you can just snip off some of the longest ones, or how you like it. And snip off the tips and tie down the butts. And you want to align the thread between the hook point and the barb. And we're gonna make the first dubbing ball, and for this I'm using some STF in a tan color and make it nice and firm, this dubbing ball, okay? So I'm making sure the dubbing noodle is kind of thin so I have full control of it, and you want to make sure you don't advance it forwards. So when you're finished with this dubbing ball, the tying thread is aligned with the point between the hook point and the barb, okay? This is very important. Right there. So then we're gonna use some more STF dub. And here I'm aligning the fibers with each other. As you can see, I'm pulling them out, making them nice and long, okay? So pull out some dubbing and align them, and you want to make this part about the same length as the hook, okay? And perhaps a little bit longer. So just tie them in. Take a couple of turns, and you want to make sure this dubbing is on the top of the hook. And I like to use my thumb and just comb the fibers so the fibers kinds of fans out so they become a little bit wider on the top. You'll see. Just hold them down. Align your thread between the hook point and the barb and go back again. Now you can see how nice and wide they are. And you can snip off the waist. And you can tie down the butts. And you're going to advance your thread forwards, stopping at least 3 millimeters before the eye. This is also very important. So tie in some lead. I'm just gonna tie in 2 strands of lead, okay? Making sure I don't crowd up the eye with the lead wire. And make sure they are underneath the hook so your fly gets well balanced. So now you're getting ready for the first set of legs, okay? And I pre-cut these legs. This is 6 legs that are 7 centimeters long, and I pre-knotted them, okay? So you want the joint to be about the same length as the mouth parts. So make sure it's where you want it. You can kind of manipulate the leg, and you just can hold it and tie it in at the side of the fly, okay? Take a couple of turns and make sure it's where you want it. And again, you need to make sure your thread is at the point we're talking about, between the hook point and the barb. It's very important. So when you're done, you can just tie in one on the other side. Make sure it's kind of where you want it, and you can use your fingers, hold it down, take a secure wrap like that by pinching the thread, and you want to advance your thread back, all the way back, and just tie it down. And when you're happy with it, there, you can snip off the waist. So now you just want to tie in some Superhair for feelers. Yeah, I'm using a tan color. Then we're gonna dub some more dubbing, and now as you see my tying thread is aligned, is at the point between the hook point and the barb. And again you want to make a nice thin dubbing noodle, okay? And make sure when you're finished with this dubbing ball, the thread is aligned with the hook point, and make it nice and thick. And then you want to tie in some mono eyes. I made these myself, and align the thread with the hook point again and go forwards again. And tie one in at the other side. So you can secure these eyes with some super glue. And you don't want to forget your mono rib. This is very important to get this, to remember to tie it in, okay? It's a nice long one. So now you're at the hook point and you want to tie another dubbing ball. And make sure it's not too wide, okay? And you want to kind of make it a little bit bigger than the other one, so we kind of get this hump, okay? So now you're going to tie in the second pair of legs. Make sure it's on the side of the fly and pointing down a little bit, like that. And snip it off and tie one in at the other side. Right there. And snip off the waist. And then you tie in another dubbing ball, making a little bit smaller, okay? And you're on your third pair of legs, okay? So just find out where you want them and tie them in. Making sure they are where you want them, and one on the other side. This is number 3. And now you want to taper out your fly, and it's very important that you stop at least 2 millimeters behind the hook eye, okay? You don't want to crowd up your eye, that's very important. So taper it out, make it nice and thin at the end, okay? And you're going to tie in some more shrimp legs. This is going to make the shell back, and these are actually 14 centimeters long, and the joint is about the same length. As you can see, I'm measuring it. It's about the same length as the mouth parts, okay? And make sure it's kind of where you want them, and the leg is pointing the direction you want. Turn it around a little bit, make sure it's not up there, but perhaps down there, and so on, yeah. And when you're happy, you can just hold it, and you want to take a couple of turns to fasten it. And you're gonna make a small loop. Make sure it's on the side, and then gonna make a small loop going from you, okay? Like that, yes. And when you tie them down, you want to make sure they are beside one another, okay? So you don't cross them. Right there, okay? And you're gonna tie in another leg. Oh yes. This is also 14 centimeters long. And here I'm doing the same. I'm measuring the joint, so it's the same length as the first one you tied in, okay? So you just want to measure it, make sure it's where you want it, that the leg is pointing where you want, and when you're happy, just take a couple of turns. Just hold it with your thumb or something, like that. Take a couple of turns. And then you're gonna make a loop towards you, okay? Towards you. Just like that. And that's a little bit fiddly because these legs seems to have their mind on their own, so you just have to be patient. Okay, so make sure the loop is the same size, and yeah, just pull it and like that. And you want to make sure they are beside one another, that they don't cross each other. Okay, so there you can see it's a little bit big, so I'm trying to figure out which leg to pull. Try to pull the right leg. Oh, it's that one. Careful, careful. Pull it a little bit. There you go. And before I tie it down, I'm going to make sure they don't cross each other. Okay, that's very important that they come out beside one another. Okay, so yeah. So when you're finished with that, you can secure it and just work with it, and you'll find they're not so bad. Okay, so yeah. So when you're finished, just take a couple of turns, secure wraps, and you're gonna prepare the rib. You're gonna find your rib, and you want to come up between the first and second leg, okay? The first and second leg. Come up with the rib, and here, as you can see, the legs are not beside one another. So you have to take your time, make sure the legs are not crossing each other, because now we're gonna make the shell back, okay? So I have the rib in my right hand, and I'm making sure all the legs are beside one another, and I'm having the rib ready in my right hand, and I'm going to go over and I'm going to go between the first and the second leg on the other side. And I'm pulling it down, locking them down, and I'm checking out the legs. As you can see, they are not where I want them. So now I'm holding the rib, and I'm taking it down between the first and second leg, holding it down, and now I'm manipulating the legs that are pointing straight up. I'm slacking the rib, pulling the shall we call it the shell back now, okay? And I'm gonna manipulate the legs and slacking the rib and making sure they are where I want them, okay? So take your time at this point. So your fly looks great, okay? There we can see they are pointing where I want them, and I'm taking my rib up between the second and third leg, and make sure the rib doesn't tie in the legs. Cross it over, make it go in the dubbing, and cross it over and go down between the second and third leg. Go down there. Don't tie it down, just flip up the leg. Make sure you go down there, and you want to come up between the second and third leg again. And go down between the second and third leg again on the other side. And you cross under and come up and take a few turns in the front. So this is the part that takes really sometimes takes a long time, because you know you have to struggle with the legs and everything. So yeah, so take a couple of turns with the rib, and you want to cross it and secure it well. And when you secured it, you can just come in with your scissor and snip it off. And you can just use a whip finish tool to make a nice knot. So I like to brush the fly a little bit. I like to pull out some fibers. And when you're happy with your fly, you can find your permanent markers, and we're gonna start marking our shrimp legs. I've speeded this process up because you can do exactly how you want in form of colors and everything. So I'm using orange and I'm using black. So when you're happy, just reach in with your scissors and snip off the legs in the length you want. And the long one, these are kind of some, you can make them shorter or longer. You can choose whatever you want. I like to have them a little bit short. So snip them off where you want them. And there's your perfect Leo shrimp. And you want to make sure to snip off the Superhair. So I like to secure this fly with a little dab of UV resin, just at the first turn of the rib, okay? Let it soak down a little bit, and I like to pull kind of the front part. I like to pull them up a little bit before I zap it. You get a nice shape on your shrimp. So there we go, that's the perfect Leo shrimp, and thanks for watching, guys, and good luck with this fly, okay? And if you have any questions, please just ask me in the comment section. I will answer as fast as I can, okay? Thanks for watching. I'll see you in my next video. Goodbye.